Howdy folks, welcome to another episode of Super Hamster Plays Kingdom Death Monster. As ever, do me a favour, hit the thumbs up button on this video, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well, which you can do by clicking on the little hamster down here, or by clicking on the subscribe button, which is probably somewhere down here. So what are we doing today? Today we are building the largest of the models that comes in the base game. We're going to build the Phoenix, which, as you can tell from this thing's wingspan, is quite a large model. This thing here is the two halves of its body, so its body is a couple of inches wide, so we're looking at that sort of wingspan there, which, to give you an idea, that is 100mm base, I believe. So that's what 100. It's going to be nearly a foot across, so it's a big model. But yeah, so these parts should be fairly straightforward to identify as we go through them. You've got the two wings, you've got the two halves of the body, you've got a piece of log. Pretty sure that's a piece of log. The model's actually stood on a fallen tree. That is a leg. There's the other wing. That's it, the underside of its tail, and you can tell because this hole here is its cloaca. You have the other wing. You have two hands. These parts, by the looks of it, make up its beak and its inner face. Yes, I said inner face. There is a face within its beak. This is obviously the other half of its tail, the upper side. Then you've got its feet, being the other part of that log, this being the other leg, and a bit of feather. Not quite sure what that one's for, but that essentially leaves us with these long skinny bits here, which are quite unique. This long skinny bit here, quite unique. This piece here, which I'm guessing is a finger missing from one of the wings, maybe. There's 4 on that one, there's 4 on that one. Oh, there's 2 more of them, so that's those. There's another little bit of tree, and then there's a whole rake of 30. Yeah, it's 30 hands, which have specific locations, so that's going to be a bit of an awkward one. But if you look on the underside of the wings, hopefully you can see there's all these little sockets dotted about all over the place. Obviously got the one that is the cloaca itself. There's some on the top. So the wings are covered in lots of little grabby hands, which is weird, creepy, and the sort of thing we would expect from Kingdom Death. And there's the extra finger for those pieces. These ones here. So they go on the top of the wings. The hands we're going to do at the very end. So we'll build the model without them, and once we've got it complete, I may have to do a whole separate video on that, because, as I say, there's 30 pieces in there. So we might put some of the obvious ones in as we go. For example, there's a big one there, or a big piece there that's got a huge round peg, and funnily enough, that fits into the cloaca, which is a fun word to say. So cloaca. Which is basically an orifice on a bird or reptile, if you didn't know. I'm sure there are other meanings of it, and that's not the dictionary definition, but that's basically what it is. So yes, it's a bird's bottom. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going to cut off some of these larger pieces, which, as I said, we've just gone through. You should be able to identify pretty easily. I'll clean them up, and I'll bring you guys back when we're ready to start sticking things together. See you in a bit. Oh, before I go, as ever, we've got the two halves of the base, and yes, it is 100mm across. So we've got the top part and the bottom part. For the purposes of this video, as ever, I'm just going to be using the base, the top part of the base, the bit that the model actually sticks to. I'm not going to be using that, and yeah, I'm sure you can work out how to put those two pieces together, but I don't do that until after I've painted. So see you soon. Okay, welcome back. Yeah, quite a bit of clean-up work on these. Not because the mould lines were particularly bad. But there's just so many pieces, and when you're going around the edges, there's all these little, like the feathers, and there's veins all over the hands and all sorts, and you really need a lot of light. You need to be able to see what you're doing, and you need to really look at it and work, is that a mould line, or is that a sort of vein running down the, a tendon, or a vein running down the back of the fingers, or is that a piece of feather, or is that a little bit of flash, whatever. And yeah, so there was quite a bit of cleanup work to do. Not particularly difficult. I did it all with my kniffy. Hopefully I've got it all, but as I put the pieces together, I'll be doing the dry fitting thing and double checking. But I've got the knife to hand should I need it. There are distinct sections. You have the two hands, which are just single pieces each. They're nice and easy. Get those out of the way. There's these 5 pieces here, which is the beak, head, and eyes, basically. So it's basically the head of the model, although there's actually 2 heads, because there's a head within a head. It's like like that, in a sort of alien head within a head, except I don't think the inner one shoots out. But anyway, this is essentially facial hair. This little wispy spiky thing here is a beard coming off of the chin, and this is the mustache of the inner face, as best I can tell. It's a weird, creepy model. You have the tail, which is made up of 3 sections. I worked out what that bit was for. It's in there. I'm guessing there's an undercut or something in there, and it was part of the moulding process. But yeah, so you have those. You have the body, and then of course the legs. You have the wings and the 2 fingers, and then you have these 4 pieces down here that make up the log. And I'm essentially going to build each of these sections and then stick them together as I go. So the first thing I'm going to do is stick the log together, because I want to give that as much drying time as possible, so that I've got a nice sturdy foundation to then start gluing other bits to. So I think we'll start with that, then we'll go to the tail, because it's a huge tail. And let me give you some comparison. There's one of the survivors. So this thing. Oh yeah, be careful with these as well. These talons are quite sharp. I actually bent this one by stabbing myself, so be careful. But that's the sort of wingspan we're talking here. This is a big model. In fact, let's turn that way, so that I'm not leaning on. You can see it's most of these have got a slight curve to them at the end. This one's a bit straight. I keep sort of bending it like that, and if it stays put, then fine. If not, then I'm going to have to do the boiling water trick, which, if you don't know what it is, basically this stuff, when it gets, the warmer it gets, the softer it gets. And moulded plastic in particular has a fantastic property that it remembers what shape it's supposed to be. So even though it's been bent, and it might have been bent for a long time and it stays bent, if you warm it up enough, it will actually want to go back to being straight. Or in this case, it's straight and it wants to go back to being bent. So if I lowered this into a pot of boiling water, keeping my hands nice and clear, just leave it for, I don't know, 20-30 seconds, let the heat get into the plastic, then lift it out. This will be really bendy, and it'll mostly go back how I want it, but you can sort of give it a slight tweak and then put it back into cold water, and that will sort of lock it in as it's supposed to be. So yeah, you can do that with most plastics, but particularly board game plastics, the soft, slightly bendy stuff works really well for straightening out spears and things if you've got a board game, people on the map. But anyway, yeah, so let's get cracking with that. So got my trusty polystyrene cement, Got my brush, got my emergency daubing kit. Now, so you can see this is the log will stand up like that, and it's got the lower hands, which are disturbingly hand-like. They're supposed to be feet, but yes, they're basically their hands, and it's clutching the log, and so it's clamped onto the log like that. So if you turn it over and take the next largest piece, and that will slot in there. And if you wiggle it around a bit, it'll sort of click into place, and then you'll know where it is. You can see where the joints are, but yeah. As ever, they've done a really nice job of hiding most of the joints in cracks and things. They're not on exposed edges. Like, I keep looking at this when I've got it just held together, and I'm going, oh, there's the crack, you can see it, and then when you actually split it, it's over there. So, but yeah, so we'll start with that. Just get these pieces, move them out of the way, give yourself a bit more room. So yeah, 4 pieces for this one. So let's start off with this one. There is a bit of a flat edge, which if you look, you can see it. It won't come out on the camera, but it is there. You can see it on the model itself. Advantage of this being a slightly knobbly model, there are little places you can hold the thing, which are different to where you're going to be putting the glue, which means you don't end up with melted plastic all over your hands. So it's not going to be a great one because it's such a big area, but if I can get it roughly in the right place, yeah, and squeeze it down together, and then I'll do the going over the joint and just let physics work for me and suck it into the joint. I essentially do a bit of a surface weld. Pretty sure I just filled in a crack that isn't actually a joint. Yeah, and there's one coming down through here. But again, this bit where you can see the joint is actually the back. So it's going to have the tail and things over the top of it anyway, so you won't see it. Yeah, so that's that. And I'm going to leave that for a second. We'll put those 2 pieces on in a moment. Now I'm going to go back to the larger piece of the tail, flip it upside down so you got the smooth side, and I'll say this piece just sits in there. So that's the next one. It's also got loads of surface area that's coming in contact with it, so you should get a really good joint on this one. Not that it's a structural point on the model, so it doesn't actually need to be that good a joint. It just needs to hold it in place, really. But if you're going to glue it, you may as well do it properly. Not that we're gluing, because this is cement, and I've made that mistake so many times in this series. But there you go. And a quick dab along the top. Slide that in. And just push it down. And yeah, again, it's following the edges of, there's no seams in the middle of a feather, so it just looks like another patch. It's just another layer of feathers on top of feathers, which is overlapping like roof tiles, so that's fine. And that's that. And that piece will be going in there. Next, let's glue the 2 halves of the body together. Pretty straightforward. They're these little locating lugs, top and bottom. It's together. It's got a bit of a crest down the back. You got holes there for the wings. You got a face there, or a place there for the face. You got flat areas for attaching the arms, and this great section here is for connecting the tail. So big surface area, nice strong joints. for us. Nothing so entertaining. Why did I say entertaining? Like, large surface areas are entertaining. Well, I suppose it'd be like that sort of thing. But... you know what I meant. I was going to say exciting, but even that's not the right word, is it? I'm going to stop talking now because I have no idea what I'm doing or what I'm talking about, and I'm kind of waffling. So, which I am prone to do when I don't know what I'm talking about. Tip if you ever meet me in the real world. Hearts together. You can see the joint on the underside, but again, underside, you're not going to see it. Make extra on these bits because A, it'll flatten it out, and B, it'll make the joint just a little bit stronger. That joint there, with where you've got the ridge, so it's like the back of the head, is probably the most visible on the whole thing. So if I can get that lined up, then I'll be well away. So let's take a bit of a look at that one. In fact, once it's gone, I might give it a bit of a scrape just to try and sort of smooth it out a bit. But I think this side is a little bit high, so it's like that at the moment. It's minuscule, but so I'm trying to pull one side down and the other side up. But yeah, it's not far out, and I think once it's set, as I say, I'll give it a bit of a scrape. All right, back to part one, being the log. 2 pieces left. One side's quite curved and intricate, the other's got big flat panels. I'm guessing the curved side, yeah, looks like that sits in there, which means that will sit on me. I've lost it now, I'm all spun around. Is that it? Yeah. So that's the flat side, which means that's going to go in there. So I'm going to stick these 2 pieces together. Now, when you're looking at the model, every so often you get a completely flat side. You get lots of smooth sides, but you'll get one that's flat. It's a hard edge, and that obviously goes on the base. So should be able to line those up, no problem at all. And whilst it's still soft, let's get in on this bit. I've said it in the past, but that's the biggest advantage of using polystyrene cement over something like super glue, is you do have that few minutes to adjust it, get it lined up, and get it exactly as you want before everything's sort of set. Whereas super glue, it's pretty much as soon as it's in contact, that's it. You better have got it right the first time, because there isn't going to be another. And again, gnarly logs, so you won't really see it, but you do want to make sure that everything is flat, that it's nice and stable, like that. Just get in there. One one log. Yeah. Back to the tail section. Do I want to put this together before I connect the pieces? I'm going to say no. In a second, I'm going to switch the camera off. I'll have a bit of a play around with these pieces. I want to wait for that to set a bit before I start poking it too much. But yeah, I'll have a play around and work out. For example, if I stick these pieces together, will I get the tail in there, or do I need to stick that one on and then stick that to both? Is the sort of thing I'm thinking. So I'll just have a quick play, dry fit, and I'll be back. Right, and a quick play around, and as you can see, once this piece is on, it does in fact slot in quite nicely there. So I am going to go ahead and join these two pieces. How far back does this come? To about there. Don't know why I went across there, because this piece down here that's going to connect to it is hollow, so there is nothing there. And a quick bit down in the lugs, or the sockets for the lugs, and get it around the right way. That would be a very silly thing to do, wouldn't it? If you get it the wrong way around. You there, and let you go again. There we go. Oh, this is going to be a heavy model. I'm actually applying pressure to the back, the underside here, to sort of force it open, so I can get the brush down there. And we'll pin that side, and then we'll come over this side and do the same thing. But again, they've hidden the creases in the folds and under things. Yeah, and yeah, I suppose if I had a bunch of rubber bands, I could do that, but I don't. So I'm just going to stand here and hold this. Right, let's have a few minutes to harden off, and it goes. Yeah, that's quite high. It all lines up like that, and I'm not too bothered about these areas being flush as long as this part is, and this bit sits in its little socket. Because all the pieces they don't fit together like that. They fit together deliberately like that. So there's little nooks and creases, like so. You got that little lip there, so that'll stop you from ending up with this piece doing that, and this piece has got a slight curve on it, so you'll get that. There's a crease down the middle, so that'll naturally find its right place. So it's the next one. Big flat areas. Now there's a lot of weight on this joint. This is quite a heavy piece, so lots of cement. In fact, I think I'm going to apply some to there, come back, reapply it to here while it's still soft, and then repeat on the other side, the other piece. So yeah, that one is fully coated. Whilst that's doing its thing, get some on here. And here. And around the edges on this piece. and then we'll come back, repeat the process. Just to make sure these are nice and soft so that they weld properly when I put the pieces together. And likewise. Yeah, they're nice and tacky as well. So. Yeah, push these pieces together and want to get a really good joint on. Just look at the amount of weight that's hanging off the back there. Look how thick that is. And up to about there, it's solid. So just think if I put these on, can I still get driving those? Yeah, it might well be worth sticking on that cloaca piece, which I wasn't planning on doing. So I'll leave him there, doing his thing. If I put him on the side, I'll take some of the tension out of the joint. Back to the hands. Now, all individual hands, except for this one here, which is a pair of hands, and this one here that is 3, and that's the one we want. And take them off, and where's the knife? Take off the little nub where it was connected. Yeah. Other than that, that's pretty good. There's a tiny amount of webbing, essentially between where the 2 hands, or 2 of the 3 hands meet. Now, if we look at this hole, it looks round, but it's not. And there is a slight corner, and yeah, perfect. So we'll just splash some around in there. I like things that only fit one way. So yeah, and as we've already discussed today, a cloaca is basically a bird's butt, and this particular butt has 3 hands trying to claw out. Whether that's trying to grab things and pull them in, or that's something that's gone in this end, worked its way through, and is now trying to be born, who can say? Who wants to say? I do not. Right. Seems to be a nice firm joint. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and add the chicken legs, because that'll brace across the joint and just make it a bit stronger. Yeah, nice flat, smooth edges, top and bottom. Flat edge in there, flat edge down there. So let's put that knife away before I stab myself. And let's get him put in. Not glue, cement. We know it's cement, it's not glue. Nice handle for its leg. Hold that. This big flat panel there, so seems a nice place to put some extra. Put that up into place. There are some visible joints on this one, but I don't think that's going to be a problem once it starts painting it and get the shading in there. And of course, you're going to have the wings coming over the top, so that will draw the eye away. But just in case, I'll get in there and weld it up. If it is that bad, then I can always go over it with some liquid green stuff, or some sort of filler, brush on filler, just to be sure. There is quite a join underneath, but again, you won't see it because it's underneath. The more I carry this, hold this thing in my hand, the more I appreciate the weight, the more I'm thinking I'm going to have to do another bit of pinning to anchor that. That's a lot of weight going through that tiny little joint there. So yeah, that's going to need a pin, I think. This enormous great chicken, which is the size of my hand, and that's before you add the wings on. That's going to go in there. That hides the joint a bit better than the other side. Again, flat surfaces. So. Again, holding its legs. Yeah, there's a thumb sticking out on a hand right where I want to put my thumb. And I'm not going to put any weight on it, but I just want to check that everything lines up while I've still got some room to adjust it. Yeah. That's quite a model. Again, to give you the comparison, there's our survivor. Right, let's put that aside for now, and that aside. This long scraggly beard thing comes in two halves. There's an offset, and it's just sticking those pieces together. And at some point we're going to need that, and it's quite an intricate part, so we may as well do that now. It's got plenty of time to join. Set. When you're cutting this one off the sprue, bear in mind there is a lug on the inside, pretty much where they join. On one of the pieces there's a big square lug, and it's a peg that fits into, if you can see it, yeah, you can see it there on the top, that fits into part of one of the faces. Where is it? Yeah, this bit of face here, so it sits in there and becomes a mustache, an immense mustache, which, knowing what Kingdom Death is like, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually comes around and grabs you and pulls you in, because, Kingdom Death is weird. Have a look at these fingers. Which one goes where? That's the short stubby one. That's the long skinny one. Right, so I'll stick those pieces on. And this head part I'm going to leave in pieces because I think it's going to be easier to assemble it by adding a piece than to the main body, and add a piece to there, then add a piece to the top and build it up in layers. But these wings are whole, the arms are whole, the mustache we glued together, the beard just sticks on the bottom of the beak when we get there. So these pieces are the last separate pieces, and then it will just be a case of gluing the whole thing together, which I'm not going to do tonight because I want these big pieces to have plenty of time to set, so that when they go together they're as strong as they can be. This long skinny finger has 2 flat sides and 2 textured sides, so I should be able to work out where that goes. It looks like I've over trimmed it, and there is a slight hole which I doubt I'm going to be able to fill by melting plastic, so that's going to need a bit of liquid green stuff or something. If you don't know what liquid green stuff is, it's basically a brush on filler. It's called green stuff because the first place that I encountered this stuff is Games Workshop, and they make their epoxy putty from a yellow piece and a blue piece that you mix together. Funny enough, it turns green and then eventually it sets, hence green stuff. You can also get it in brown, you can get it in grey. The industrial version is called Milliput, and that comes in a series of different colours. Again, there's a tiny flat bit on there which goes against the wing, so you need to get that one right. Can't see that joint at all. There's a bit more play with that piece, so you want to make sure that you line up the sort of the patterns in the finger. But yeah, so that's the pieces of our Phoenix all assembled, except for the pieces I'm not going to assemble. And I'm thinking that's probably going to do it for this part of the video. In the next part of the video, or the second half, the next episode, I will stick these pieces together. I'll have another think about this on whether or not I want to pin it. I'm fairly certain that I will. So we'll pin that piece to the feet. It's possible that it won't need it. If I can do it sort of that way to take all the strain out of the joint till it sets properly and leave it for a few days before turning it the right way up, that might work, because it's going to be an awkward pin. I mean, I could come right the way through the bottom and down into its foot, but it's still going to be a bit of a pig. Alternatively, I'd have to drill straight up through and probably poke out the middle of its leg, sand that down, and then use some sort of textured putty. But yeah, this is going to be, look at this thing. This model is huge. It's, yeah. And I actually have a couple of bigger models coming in the near future. But yeah, so that'll do it for this episode. In the next one, as I say, we'll put these pieces back together, and then we'll have fun and games putting these 29 hands in the various places. I'm not sure the best way I'm going to convey that to you yet. I might have to do it with highlighting an individual piece and then taking a photo close up, so so you can see where I'm actually sticking the pieces onto. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. In the meantime, thanks for watching the video. If you found it helpful, entertaining, give me a thumbs up button. It really does help the channel. Helps me get noticed, helps me get the word out. If you're new to the channel and you want to make sure that you don't miss any future episodes, including the second half of this one, don't forget to subscribe. You can click on the little hamster down here, or click on the subscribe button somewhere underneath, I believe. That'll help me take over YouTube 1 subscriber at a time, which is something that is supposed to be my catchphrase, but I always forget to say it. So there you go. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.